All right, coming out of executive session, let Bruce do his thing.
We're coming out of executive session, and that session discussing correspondence sent to individual commissioners.
All right, thank you. Before we move on to the regular agenda, I do need to leave on front of being over to Vice Chairman here. I have some, I'll say sad, but maybe happy news for this gentleman. Bill Brown just informed us a short while ago that he is going to be stepping down from the commission. In fact, he notified his freeholders yesterday. He's been here for almost 35 years. Amazing, absolutely amazing, and still makes the drive up here 70 miles away for these meetings. So I know we will do a formal send-off for Bill. I wanted to acknowledge his work and the time and the effort that he's put in the Pinelands Commission over the last almost 35 years. So that being said, Bill, thank you very much.
Thank you. I have personal problems at home, and sorry for that length of time. I'm 94 years old, and it's time to.
What do you say? What do you mean? And it's far away. How do you understand?
Enjoyable 34 years.
I'd like to congratulate you. Bill, it's been an honor and a pleasure to serve with you, and I consider you a good friend, and I hope you enjoy your retirement.
Like, it's been an honor in retirement remuneration.
Hope you get more than you got here.
I think we should just. I agree.
So, has anybody computed the number of miles?
Paul will compute it. I will note that I don't believe Mr. Brown has ever submitted for mileage reimbursement.
It's probably still track.
Now, we're getting a huge bill now.
Expressive. And then if you have Paul do that, can you do the hours too that
Yes, Paul can. The hours he spent in meetings, the miles he's traveled. Yes, you can. Of course.
tomorrow morning? I think I'm on your bad list.
Thank you, guys. Have a good weekend.
Okay, at this point, we should entertain public comment. Would anybody like to say? Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Dr. Jonathan Peters. I'm a professor of economics and data analytics at the City University of New York. I'm sorry that I was unable to attend your last meeting when you addressed concerns regarding Wharton State Forest and now adopted management map. Unfortunately, I was scheduled to speak at Rutgers University the day that meeting was scheduled to, and I have a number of comments I'd like to make just quickly. I've been studying the roads in Wharton State Forest for the last 2.5 to 3 years. I'm looking at the historic aspects of the roads. And I've been in contact with the Commission staff over the last 2 years regarding the work map, in particular some of the errors that I've identified in the geographic information system data that you are using that does not match my field collector data. We spoke about field collection work, and that's what we've been doing. I look forward to working with the Commission and your staff on this matter. I'd also like to improve your analysis of the Pineland region in terms of the economic analysis. I believe I have a number of techniques that may sharpen our understanding of the region and the economic players that contribute to the jobs and business growth in the Pinelands. Thank you.
Jason?
I just wanted to thank all the commissioners and staff for approving the resolution on Wharton State Forest last meeting. Didn't have a chance to at the previous meeting, so just wanted to make sure you knew how much I appreciated that, how much all the volunteers that work out there appreciate that. And I also wanted to let the commission know that we're going to be offering our full support to the State Forest for their implementation. So hundreds of volunteers, any resources they may need in terms of materials or supplies. And we'll be sending that in a letter today to the State Park Service. Thank you.
Don Purdy.
Yeah.
He's good, okay.
Is there anybody else that would like to speak? Going once, twice, hearing none, we'll close public comment. Looks like we have one other item, one other resolution to adopt our fiscal budget.
I'd like to meet you. Sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Second.
Mark.
Yeah, I second. Is
Hold
there any
on.
discussion?
Oh, yeah, for the budget?
Yes,
I think Nancy needs a presentation.
okay.
Okay.
This is so much, it's been around.
No, it's not that.
Budget?
Yeah.
Sorry. Talking to the chairman, yeah. Oh, your slides? Okay. Sorry. Here. I got you. Okay. All right. So here we are for the FY18 budget. It is pretty similar to prior budgets, no big surprises. Do I have a slide thing? Yes. I'm going to guess. Okay, so I'll remind you, normally we have 3 budgets this year, 4. We have our operating fund budget, which is our main basic budget, the Kirkwood-Cohansey Aquifer Assessment Study Fund, which used to be $5 million way back. The new budget is the Katy Trust Fund. This is a fund of money that has been around and growing slowly since about 1990. There was an employee who worked here who was killed in a car accident. The fund was established. Small bits of money come in. Each year her parents send some money, and each year I write back a lovely note saying, thank you so much for doing great things with this money, but we weren't doing anything with the money really, and it's been haunting me. So this year, when we get to the budget, we have a great project, and we're going to spend the money and do a wonderful thing with it. And then the last is our Pinelands Conservation Fund, which we will now go through each of them individually. So here we have our operating budget. Stayed the same as from last year, which has been up a little bit from the year before, which has been up a little bit from the year before that. Thank you. The state supplemental funding line remains the same. That's supposedly to cover fringe and indirect. That was an arrangement made in the Corzine administration. That number does not go up, although our fringe and indirect is way more than that. So the new administration coming in, I will start again to make the push that line needs to be increased to reflect what fringe and indirect is. Because at some point, we managed to balance our budget because we have other monies, but when, NPS money and EPA money and old agreement monies, but that won't last forever, and that's important for us to get at that. So that remains the same. Our permit fees, as you know, go up and down, so we sort of based the coming year on what the last year was. We've had some better years. Actual to last year was 340. Yeah. So we're estimating 340, but if construction's up and building's up, we might get more, and that'll be good. And the rest, the grant and special purpose line looks particularly high because we have a backlog of NPS money that we haven't spent. The money sort of tracks oddly, so we have this little pool of money, and we're getting anxious because NPS got a little anxious with the new administration, so we want to spend it before they either take it or cut what they send us every year. So we'll talk later about how we're going to boost our efforts in those areas to spend that, and nothing else exciting. It does appear that, well, we'll wait to get to expenditures, talk about that before the governor's office says. Okay, here are the expenditures. So you can see what the fringe is. It's over $1.5 million. It's huge. And we're only getting 687. So there's a big gap there. Fringe is crazy. Crazy. It's just every year it goes up. So the salary line's up a little bit. We hired some people. We hired somebody planning over the years. Sometimes the salaries are a little higher, or we were carrying vacancies, so that's up a little bit. Fringe is always up. Everything else is pretty much tracking the same. We can go into details on any of it. In professional services, that's where we have the legal fees that nobody likes, $75,000 for the DAGs, a little over $100,000 for labor council. We anticipate negotiating a contract coming this year with the new administration. So that's that line. On the DAG stuff, just so you know, we've been pushing back on the bills because like we look at them and question them, and we just weren't paying, and finally they noticed, so they called and said, "You haven't paid?" And we were like, "Well, yeah, because we asked you some questions and you never answered it." They consider the $75,000 a floor. We consider it a maximum, so we're looking at it in two different ways, and we're having conversations with them. It is what it is. We've had some busy legal years, and sometimes I could peg like whether it turns out good for us, and it's important that we maintain it, but it is a big bill for us. And the maintenance and rent is high because that's where all your favorite projects are. Painting the building, getting a generator, and then we cut down some trees, which you may or may not have noticed that were unhealthy and threatening us. So that money is there.
Question about rent, right? What is rent in there? Are you talking about equipment or?
Equipment, copiers,
You know,
stuff like that.
okay.
Yes, exactly, yep.
We talk about it every year. And
Yes.
every year we are optimistic we're going to get there. I'm optimistic again we're going to get there. And wait a minute, anticipated, because I'll work on that schedule.
Are we talking about paying?
Yes. But see, that's my plan. Eventually it'll
We'll save us
all
money, so we don't have to get it.
Yes, exactly. You know, to be honest, it's a resource issue. There's always something that's more important than that, like the visitor center is taking up a huge amount of desk time, and other big projects come along. We will get the trees we did.
That's this fall, we create a question, what should the state focus?
We try, we make the calls, we whine and complain, but so that's why that number's up.
And we have looked for other grants.
Yeah.
We're just not eligible, you know, it's unfortunate. We tried.
We will have an emergency generator by this time next year.
It's there, we budgeted for it, we just don't want to do that. That one is just.
It wasn't a question, it was a statement.
Because you know what'll happen? Instead of us being able to shut down for a month, we'll have to keep working. That's why we're not pushing this. We'll have no excuse. We'll get to it. But money's there, so that we've accumulated and put there. And then the last category there, improvements and acquisitions, is up. We needed some IT stuff for the accounting software. We had to get a server and some other stuff, so that's in there, and that's ordered, and potentially some surveillance we were going to do, so we put some money into that. Just as the lobby of this building.
Outside, and lobby of this building, Wi-Fi also.
Wi-Fi, so we can watch Netflix at the meetings, as opposed to just at our desks. And you know, you have the budget in your packet with all the notes, which I encourage you to read, because they're really informative. And we work hard on the budget. That's not that big. So that's it. That's our balanced budget. Cryptocurrency, I think every year we say we're going to spend what's left, and we haven't quite gotten there yet. We're getting to the end. From this, we will be developing policy and rulemaking on water supply. I think we need a little more work from USGS than our yes.
Yeah, we're pretty close to what we want to see in the rule. We need some expertise to get us so that we're ready to implement it immediately. So we're going to ask USGS to fill in some gaps for us. And that's what we've been doing over the years. And the gaps get smaller and smaller, but they're still there.
So this year, we'll talk a little bit about initiatives, but that's one of them, is to move that whole proposal. All right, here's Katie Fund. So I'm pretty sure I told you that we got really lucky and we got an Eagleton Fellow who came here for an internship, and she was also, she had a fascinating background, but she was also a landscape architect. And she designed what we are now calling the Katie Garden, which will replace what's right out there. There's that little area with plants growing wildly. She designed it with plants and maintenance, and there'll be a walkway, memorial bench with her name on it. It'll be lovely. And it'll coincide with the visitor center. So, Paul and I have talked about some of the plants will be native, not all of them, because no offense, I want it to be really beautiful. But we'll have some native plants. It just couldn't be all native plants, it just didn't work. But we will have them, and Paul's going to put signs up to identify them, and we'll have some other information so that the visitor center will flow out, and people will go outside to a nice garden, talk about Pinelands and staff and things like that.
Is that basically a shaded area, right? Is it shaded in that area?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's the area right between the two buildings, and we've removed trees. No, it's.
Okay.
So we're gonna,
I was trying to give you some cover. You said, beautiful garden.
Yeah.
I was going to say that you're limited.
It's gonna be a beautiful garden.
To the landscape.
Beautiful garden. That's what it is. And I also talked to Paul about it, trying to get a committee together so we can maintain it right and make sure we do the right things, and John Keys, and so that's pretty much all the money. I don't know if we'll spend it all, but we budgeted all of it. Furniture, the benches, professional services for the walkway if we need it. We can't do it ourselves to get a walkway through there, what we make it out of. But she did a lovely job, and we have a complete plan now. It is my intention to move forward with that this year and get that done. And it'll make everybody happy. And there's still people who have worked with her, and it'll make them happy. So it's just a good thing.
I want to assume we're having a dedication for that when it's finished, and like Katie shot and all that. That'd be great.
Yes.
Great.
Yeah. PCX. So these are Pinelands Conservation Fund monies. You know where they came from, connected other agreements over the years. Land acquisition, we are anticipating $500,000 worth of land acquisition. Conservation planning and research, that's staff time. We do a lot of projects out of there. I looked at it this morning. I think the Hamilton stuff is in there, the wastewater treatment, special projects. Does you remember off the top of your head?
We use that fund to match a lot of the grants. JB's gone, but a lot of the science office's grants are matched funds out of this particular account.
Conservation planning and research, Hamilton wastewater, the rapid landfill assessment, alternate septic system pilot, roadside plant management, threatened endangered species data, rulemaking for Black Run. So we put a lot of projects in here that we can fund out of here to take some pressure off of the appropriation. So that relatively consistent. Education and outreach up a little bit. Maybe associated with the visitor center.
So anticipated change orders, 20% of what the original cost of. That's the case.
Nancy, I want to mention, the community planning and design account. This is how we fund our administration at the Pinelands Development Credit Bank. The commission took that over years ago. This is how we're funding that, the administration of the bank, which also won't last forever. I mean, that is definitely a concern, but there's no appropriation for the bank.
When we get to initiatives,
We talk about
before we go into staffing levels, if you want me to go into any detail on any of the budgets, let me know. No big surprises. We're pretty much treading water and holding our own. Here's our staffing levels. The authorized numbers, those are the old original numbers from way back then, when there used to be 66 positions here. But we keep listing it there in case somebody notices it, decides to give us more. We're pretty stable. Reg programs, even though the increase is down one, I'm not sure why it shows that way, but it does. I guess the last one is probably the current down position that's still out. Business services is down. We lost an employee there. We're working on that. And everything else is consistent. So we're at 41, which is really 40 people on 2 halves. One of those halves is going full-time in December. So our total salaries, not fringe, is a little over 3 million, and here's where it comes from. Most of it from operating fund, a little bit from Kirkwood, conservation planning and research, which we discussed, we get a big piece from there, to total up to the total salary. FY18, we will complete the visitor center and the tasting room. We're continuing with our rules. We're going to adopt, Susan said she had a public hearing, I guess it was last week or the week before. That one's moving ahead. To be proposed, the Black Run, that's a Medford Evesham plan. We had talked about it. It didn't go this year. We're still working on it. Kirkwood Cohansey, water supply, and application process. We have to do rulemaking to address the 4055D issue. Because we can't, we had the 3, we did the resolutions, but we can't do that anymore. And they'll come in, there's solar projects, oddly, and it's not just 4055D, we're discovering curiously, there are other projects that don't require local approvals for one reason or another. And that's the same situation. So now, we're trying to wrap our brains around all of it, but that rulemaking has to start quickly, and we're going to move that next year. And that, Susan and I have been talking, we'll probably come to P&I with some ideas, but then try to hear from the commissioners. So it's going to require some thought. There's a lot of different ways to get at this, and it'll be contentious for sure. Something to look forward to. Pinelands Development Credit Bank. Susan mentioned funding. There are other issues with the bank that the bank wants to address, and we have drafted legislation which we have shared with Senator Van Drew, who has taken an interest in it. We're working with Van Drew's office on some language changes, and we're optimistic that the legislation will move. It's got support. The ag community supports it. The builders won't oppose it.
That was the best we could do.
Yeah. Keep your friends close. And there's a lot of stuff in there. There's a request for a $5 million appropriation so that the bank can buy and retire credits, and the bank can buy and sell, because we have people who use the credits complaining the process is too hard, they don't want to deal with individuals. We've also put in there that we would like a small pro for staff, $100 so we can continue to staff the bank and not use PCF money. So we're optimistic. It's a good piece of legislation. Stacy worked with, on it for it, and so that's out there now, and I secretly hope that maybe there'll be some crazy lame duck session and it'll be just something that we object to and it'll go, but you never know. Long-term economic and environmental program reviews. I mentioned 2 things going on there. One, we're re-looking at both of those programs to see if they need to be changed. Larry will talk to you about the long-term economic monitoring. We do that big report that we issue. We think we can do it better. We think we can do it digitally. We think we can have a website. We think a lot of things. So Larry had a meeting a while ago with some government types who are economic experts. There's another meeting scheduled for, I'm going to say, a week from Monday.
Yes.
With other economic experts, not government. Or both.
More PhDs.
To help us look at what we've been doing and give us recommendations for if we could do it better. On the science side, John Vanilla left, so anything I say is not fact. He would like to hire another employee for his office. They want to expand the field work they've been doing to do more upland, to start to look at those impacts. And so that will help us, and that will get us through that hump of money that we've been holding on to. So we're both, and he's also reviewing his program. He'll meet with the science advisory group. He has one to talk about what they've been doing and their ideas for moving forward. So the program reviews are going on, and we have initiatives to spend additional money. And then our cultural resources, we have cultural resources gone wild. That's what we have. I told you that we're having a symposium next Saturday, and Tony has also, he's arranging, although it's not final yet, so don't tell anybody, an archaeological dig to coordinate with Monmouth University and their students to look at a site where there are potential Indian artifacts that they will be doing in the spring, I think I read. So if that happens, I will be really excited. Really excited, because, we've done cultural work, but these are two big things. The symposium, you know, if that's something that continues, would be really great to talk about, you know, archaeology and cultural resources in the Pinelands and then the field school. So that's all good. And that's, you know, a lot of work for Tony and, you know, for maybe Susan, but it's not a lot of work for me. So Tony's very efficient, he works really hard, he's really exciting, and that's all good. So, and staff gets involved, so that's good too. So that's sort of what's big, you know, then we just see what happens, and then sort of takes over what we do. I think that's fine. That's anything we need to add. Just, you know, it's all secrets, dollars, cents, facts. I just, I rely. And that's the budget.
Any questions for Nancy?
Paul, nice job.
Thanks.
I just would add that the personnel and budget subject or committee has worked with the staff on this over a couple of meetings. I think as the year progresses, you'll find that there's some very positive details in the budget that will be very good for the commission, both in the short term and the long term, not just on the generators.
Thank you.
So, and we would recommend that the commission adopt the various budgets and look forward to some of those projects being completed over the coming year.
Anybody else? I guess we don't need a roll call, just, we have a motion on the floor, so all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, motion carries.
And I would just add that any thanks and wonderfulness about the budget. Sister Jessica Lynch, who does all the work, and can sit here with all of her tabs and answer anything you might ask her.
Also, Jessica does that willingly. She's very glad to answer all your questions. And she's a welcome
Yes.
from all the jobs she's had.
Yeah.
Thank you. Staff, is there anything else on the agenda? I don't see anything else.
Well, there is. Wait, there is. Oh, but there is.
Sorry about that, Susan.
That's okay. We won't take long, but it is a sort of a happy, you know.
Thank you.
So every year we I come to update the commission on pieces of the news, which in this case are permanent land protection efforts over the past fiscal year. You all have a map in front of you, so you can take home with you. There's a large one in the lobby, and it'll be posted on the website later today or perhaps Monday. So what we do all year is collect data, new deal restrictions that are sometimes related to development applications, but sometimes are unrelated. They're acres that are protected through county farmland conservation programs, for example. We do our best to collect all that information and put it into our system so that we can produce this map and keep track of what's preserved throughout the entire Pinelands area. It's 1 million acres, so you can imagine it's quite an undertaking. So this is our report for fiscal year 17. These are new acres protected during that year. 342 acres protected through the commission's programs. State acquisition Green Acres has been actually pretty active in the Pinelands after really not doing much for a few years. They are now active again. You can see they acquired over 1,000 acres in the Pinelands area during fiscal year 17, and we already know they are pursuing some additional projects currently. So you'll be seeing that number go up next year. Farmland preservation, Burlington County in particular is still quite active, preserving farmland in the Pinelands portion of the county. I think that may be all Burlington County acreage this year. County open space, Ocean County, of course, is the most active of our counties in the Pinelands area. And the picture here of the horse and the horse farm, that's a property in Jackson Township that was preserved by the Ocean County Natural Lands Trust in the last fiscal year. This is actually a project that applied for funding under the Pinelands Conservation Fund Land Acquisition Program. It didn't rank high enough in our criteria to receive funding from the commission, but the county went ahead and acquired and preserved the property even without our money, so that's good news. So a little over 2,300 acres in the Pinelands area were preserved in the last year. In terms of your own programs, It's only 342 acres this year. We've had higher years, obviously, when the Pinelands Conservation Fund was active. Didn't have any new projects last fiscal year for the Conservation Fund that actually closed. So you don't see that up here. So the highest amount of land preserved was through the PDC program. The picture on the left is a property that was preserved through the PDC program some time ago in Pemberton Township. Limited practical use is an acquisition program administered by DEP that is still somewhat active, 33 acres. Density transfer, that's one of our own programs that we administer through our review and approval of development applications. Same with clustering. That's land in the forest or rural development area that was preserved as part of an open space component in residential development. And then we have sort of a miscellaneous category. So 342 acres this year. PDC program, I put this in here because I think it's interesting to note where the properties were preserved in the last year, Pemberton and Southampton. So again, Burlington County, quite active. And all the land in the last year was in the agricultural production area. These are farms that were preserved. That's a change that we're seeing. In recent years, it's been mostly properties in the preservation area district. We're starting to see more farmers and landowners in the ag area who are interested in the program. So that's a change. And here you can see the totals for the PDC program. Preservation area district is the highest. The ag area, the number of acres in that management area is slowly increasing. So we're up over 52,000 acres now preserved through the PDC program. And you can see the management area breakdown there. In terms of total lands protected in the Pinelands area, this is a good chart visually. Even if you can't read these specific numbers, you can see the color bars are gradually increasing over time. We're showing this from 2010. So as of June of 2017, we're up to 463,000 acres that have been protected in the Pinelands area. And that's just the state Pinelands area. It does not include the Pinelands National Reserve. While we do some tracking there, our numbers aren't as good, so we don't report that. And this shows you, this is an interesting one too, this shows you of that 463,000 acres, who's responsible for preserving that land. So the blue shows you those are state, county, municipal open space programs or farmland preservation programs. The reddish color there, that's your piece of the pie, if you will. Those are lands that were preserved through one of the commission's programs. And then the 12,000 acres in purple, those are non-governmental, conservation foundation, for example, Red Caucus Conservancy. Those are lands preserved through their efforts. Protected lands by management area. I always like to show this one just to give you an indication that most of the land in the Pinelands area that's preserved is in the conservation areas. Conservation area district, forest area, the two agricultural production areas account for, I think it's 94% of the protected land is in those areas. So we're really not seeing, and we're not, certainly the commission is not focusing on preserving land in the growth areas. Town, village, regional growth area. So 49% of the Pinelands area is now under some form of permanent land protection. Love to be able to bump that number up to 50%, but it takes a lot of land to even do 1 percentage point. The picture here is one that Paul took recently of the Amtal site in Mullica Township. This is a 570-some acre acquisition that Green Acres completed last year. This is also an old project that's submitted for funding under the Pinelands Conservation Fund maybe 10 years ago. It was funded, but the Conservation Foundation was never able to accumulate enough other funding sources to complete the project, and so it sort of just died off. But last year, Green Acres was able to put all of the money it needed together and negotiate with the property owner and complete the acquisition. And it's a huge site. It's right in the Elwood corridor. It's a very important piece that we've been interested in seeing preserved for many, many years. So that was a great success by Green Acres. It was quite an accomplishment. Right. It was an old, like, World War I town, sort of. Yeah. Yeah, really, really great property.
So we have pictures and stuff like that.
So that's it. So we do have the maps for you. We will post them, obviously, if you have questions about particular projects or where we're headed next. Next year, at this time, I hope to be able to report that 4 additional projects were completed under using Pinelands Conservation Fund money. Projects are out there, we funded 4 of them, they are moving forward, so we're hopeful that they will all be complete soon. And Eric, I'll show you that, so. It'll be on the website, it'll be easier to zoom in and out to really see specific properties.
Thank you, Susan. So do we have anything else, Nancy? Nancy?
Now we did.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. You mentioned.
I was here the whole time. Just an observation, I don't know, I know the staff is probably aware, but maybe the commissioners are not. And I go back quite a few years as being a member of the original ad hoc committee on the alternate septic system that will be adopted. And the report that Edwin Grasky just published, I don't understand what he's talking about, but. You know, he's willing to come and tell you. I know that. But one of the interesting things that is not a surprise to me, and I don't think it's a surprise to Candy actually, it was a concern of ours at the beginning, as the enforcement issue, which we don't have the enforcement powers. But if you don't know, what you should know is that, you know, a property owner has to maintain, you know, a maintenance contract with the septic systems, you know, in perpetuity, you know, forever, as long as it's there. And the bottom line is they know. And when the people don't, it's supposed to be referred to the boards of health, meaning county board of health, because that's who the state has delegated the authority to. And I don't have to tell you that none of the county board of health is enforcing this. They turn a blind eye to it. They just don't enforce it. And that was one of the concerns that I had, and Candy had, even Joe Kowalski, that was the chairman, had a concern on it. While ago. So now one can say that, well, there's a restriction in your deed, so if you ever go to sell a property, you know it's when it pops up the head. Well, it's easy to fix. You just go out and get a maintenance contract where you're settlement and let the new owner let it last, because nothing's going on. And why the county boards of health are not enforcing this is beyond me. But it's a concern that we had right from the beginning, and now it's there and it's over the head. That's exactly what's happening. Because nobody's renewing these contracts. Nobody. Maybe one.
So we are making efforts to do better tracking of that issue. We have a new tracking system that we're being worked on, you know, in-house, and Ed is reaching out and trying to work more closely with county boards of health to see if there's something we could do to help them keep track of what they need to be doing in notifications. And so he's also working on an overall pilot program implementation report that's due in November. So I think probably come January he'll be here, and that'll be one of the issues we'll talk about to see whether and how the commission might be able to improve that part of the program.
Because the condition is that the manufacturers, not just pick one out of the hat, whether it be BioClear or FH Mahoney or you know, all these systems, they're the ones who actually notify the boards of health that, hey, by the way, these people have not renewed their contract with us. So the reporting, to the best of my knowledge, the reporting is being done to the boards of health, you know, from the manufacturers. It's not from the homeowner. Is from the manufacturers and say, by the way, this particular guy, John Doe, did not renew his contract with us. And this isn't what's the problem, because we don't have the enforcement power.
Does the homeowner have any repercussions from that through their systems? I mean, do they?
Only when they notice
So no.
only not from us. The board of health should be issuing a summons for not renewing the contract, and they don't do it. We don't have any power, and again, the only time it's going to raise its ugly head is if the property owner decides to sell the property and it pops up in the title.
Is there ever any remediation that has to be done by the homeowner that's trying to sell the property because it hasn't been maintained, like a septic?
Probably not. It's just a matter of renewing the contract. And then a particular manufacturer will come out, do an inspection, say, blah, 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 renew the contract, and you know, the new owner, you know, he's not ever gonna renew it either.
Well, Susan, if the contract did lapse and it was failed, the county probably doesn't have the expertise to actually see if it's failed. We need actually.
It's not a matter of whether it's failing or not, it's a matter of them not renewing their contract for perpetual maintenance.
So
It has
they-
nothing to do with whether it's functioning.
The contracts are for, I think, annual inspections and maintenance, so, you know, the theory was that people would be out there on site every year, experts who knew the system and how it should be working would be out there every year. I think for the counties, it's probably a combination, they may not be all that familiar with these systems, but they also don't have a lot of manpower, so, to be out there doing site inspections. That's at least what they've told us, is that, you know, they have staffing.
See, to me, it's a pretty simple thing. If the Board of Health is notified that, by the way, this guy is not in compliance, you send a notice of violations, and they're saying, show us a copy of your maintenance contract, if you already do so, and then you show signs. Let the judge work it out. Pretty simple.
Well, can we
No matter.
notify the counties that that's what they should be doing?
Yep, and that is one of the things we're working on with our tracking system, so it could automatically generate notifications to the counties. We can provide them with information block and lot, and this is the type of system, this is when it was approved. So all of that is in motion, and as I said, I mean, Ed, of course, would be happy to come and talk about the program. And I think that's, now that you mentioned it, he'll be here soon to do that, and so I think, so probably, I'm guessing probably January. And he'll definitely cover that.
I wonder, for like the commercial projects, with that we released, maybe we should put some kind of performance bond on those, design systems.
Right, so that when one of the systems is used for a commercial project, typically we actually have, it's almost like a contract, I guess, that we sign, or the applicant, they sign, and it has much more detail in it. So we are sensitive to that there. We don't have many of them, but when we do, we have a very detailed contract with all sorts of requirements for both parties in there about reporting and maintenance.
And what's also helpful in commercials is that frequently they require a DEP permit, and there's a reporting requirement to DEP and monitoring and an enforcement component that's very helpful.
So because they have a treatment that's
Correct.
Yeah. Is the issue with the boards of health, my memory is failing, but the system as it's built meets Chapter 299 standards, which is what the boards of health are charged with implementing. So do they not respond because it may not be meeting the advanced treatment, but it is meeting basic treatment?
No, I don't think it's because of that, because I mean they're supposed to be maintaining an inventory and doing inspections and maintenance for conventional systems as well.
Well,
Not a commission requirement, but it's a DEP requirement. I think it's more of a workload.
because the actual permits issued by the board. So they have
They
a
issue
legal
permits.
responsibility to enforce their permit.
For the residential, there's two components. There's the treatment aspect of it, and there's the hydrologic aspect of it. Right. Most of the systems, if you don't maintain the system, electricity and the pumps and things like that, the system could fail hydrologically, and then you got a problem. But if somehow they unplug it and it continue to work hydrologically, but not treat, that's more of an issue we have. So there's various aspects of it, and it depends on each system, you know, how it works. But some of them won't work unless the whole thing's.
Exactly. Some of the systems.
Some.
Anyone else? I just want to comment on the Board of Health, dealing with septic system or sewage and health issues. Back in 1900, just a historical point of view, here in Pemberton Township, there were two situations where people were dumping sewage from a boarding house and from a hotel right into the Grand Focus. And the Board of Health was very concerned about that because that's what the majority of the people in town got their water from. And so they were able to use whatever enforcement power they had to make them put together a cesspool or something to deal with that waste, not dump it directly into the Grand Focus River. So the Board of Health way back in 1900, before any of the zoning laws or any of the other laws that impact this, was doing the job. Yeah, that's crazy. That's because of as a county prosecutor, you violate something like that. One of which projects is right here in New Lisbon, by the way. It's across from the post office. Anyone else? Anything for the good of the order? Okay.
I'm moving to adjourn.
All right. Give us a second.
Second.
Meeting adjourned. Nice weekend.